Shalom, shalom. How everybody doing? Just wanted to come on here and say a few words, give a response to Brother Caleb. He wrote me a message the other day and he said that he made a video and he'd like me to check it out and give him my thoughts on it. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll check it out. But, I've been busy and everything like that, especially working on the album and everything. So I got a chance to check it out. And I'm thinking that he was going to talk about, I don't know, just a specific topic, maybe unrelated to what we had already debated about in regards to, is the law done away with, or are we saved by grace and faith alone? And so I'm watching the video, and it's funny because he mentions our debate. He mentions our debate specifically, and then he goes into his his um his i- his points, so to speak. And like I told him before, I appreciate his persistence, and I can respect scholarship, right? So many people that's in this world today don't take the time, don't take the effort, don't give that effort in studying the scriptures, regardless of what conclusion you come to. I can always respect a man who does his due diligence and goes into the scriptures to seek and find the truth, period. All right, so that's first off. So I do respect the brother. I got love for the brother in regards to trying to reach the people, bring truth, wake the people up. It just so happens that we have a difference of opinion. And, you know, I do my best to follow the scriptures as they are written and do everything in context. And I'm sure he does as well. It's just that we've come to two different conclusions in regards to the law and in regards to grace and faith. But after watching the video in its entirety, aside from you know a few points that he made, he pretty much is just saying the same thing that he said when we had our debate before. And I'm not gonna get it back into all of the scriptures that I brought out because they're there for it. You can check those videos out. I actually put the links of all of those videos in this video. I'll put all the links in there so you can go and watch the entire debate, the back and forth and everything like that. But it's just something that I feel like should be, I don't know, like I almost feel like he brought out what he brought out, I brought out what I brought out, and we respectfully agreed to disagree. And even if, he still wants to talk about the subject or the topic, it could have just been like a general video to, his audience, his followers, his subscribers and everybody like that just wanted to hear a word, you know what I mean? But like the video mentioned me and he wrote me and asked me to check the video out specifically to, see what I thought. And he said that he wasn't trying to start a debate, and I'm not trying to get into a debate either. So in regards to being saved by grace and in regards to being saved by faith, and not the works of the law, I mean, obviously, I disagree. Obviously, I um, follow the law. I keep the law. Excuse me. And according to Scripture, it supports what I believe. Um, all we see all through the Scriptures, from Genesis through all of the Tanakh into all the different king books, into the Apocrypha, into Jasher, Jubilees, um, all of these different books, all throughout the scriptures. We see the Torah being kept. We see the Torah being upheld. And then there's this misconception that when the New Testament comes onto the scene, miraculously the Torah disappears. When in fact it doesn't. And my thing is this, and this is the most simplest way I can speak on it without trying to add, like, I don't know, a bunch of conjecture to seem confusing. Those who believe that the law is done away with and that we are saved by faith through grace only, they use Christ's death as that turning point to not having to keep the law anymore. And then they use Paul's epistles and his journey, his ministry, to try to prove that the law wasn't being kept anymore. All right. So, the Messiah. The Messiah said he didn't come to do away with the law. He came to fulfill the law. He didn't come to do away with the law or the prophets. Okay, that's first. Second, unless the things in Revelation has come to pass already, then everything has not been fulfilled yet. Now, like I said in the other videos, I'm not here to debate or to talk about or discuss preterism versus non-preterism, because I'm not into preterism. I'm not into that. It's too many holes in that belief system, and if I have to go off of blind faith in regards to answering a question that I have about what I believe, then that's not for me. Because as one thing that I've learned in scripture, if you have a question, you seek diligently and you'll find the answer. And there's a concrete answer for your question. There's not let's just chalk it up to faith, blind faith, and we'll figure it out in the future. We'll figure it out when the Most High reveal it to us, or we'll figure it out when we get back to the land. We'll figure it out when we get into the kingdom, whatever the case may be. If you got to say that or you got to do that, whatever doctrine you believe in, then you might want to question your doctrine, because the Most High, he's not of confusion. And if you're seeking diligently, you'll find. So I don't concern myself with doctrines that don't have answers. Okay. So in regards to the Messiah and his sacrifice, he came and prepared us, right? And he actually sent John the Baptist first to prepare the way for him. But then when he came onto the scene, he prepared us for him. He came, he was an example to us, and he demonstrated the Torah. He lived, he breathed the Torah. I say all the time, he was the physical manifestation of the Torah in the flesh to show us how to deal with all of the human temptations, problems, pitfalls, stumbling blocks, and overcome them, to encourage us, to instruct us how to overcome us. He wrote the blueprint on salvation. Okay, he wrote the blueprint on salvation. So then after his sacrifice, if the law was done away with, and this is what makes no sense to me. If the law was in fact truly done away with, why was his disciples after his death, after the law supposed to be done away with and gone, why do we see them still upholding the law? And one might say, oh, well, it just died. Maybe they didn't come to the realization that the law was done away with yet. So let's fast forward. Let's go to Paul's ministry. Let's go to when Paul came onto the scene. Okay. And the same thing that people give Paul praise for on one side of the house, and the same thing that people condemn Paul for on the other side of the house in regards to his teachings and the way he words things, is if you're not firm in your understanding of the Torah, the law of Moses, the law of the Most High, then when you read Paul's epistles, it will lead you to believe that he's speaking against the law. And so a lot of people today use his epistles to try to say that it hasn't been. And if you want to get into the scriptures as to why that is not the case, check out the other videos. But Paul kept the law after, way after the Messiah had already been sacrificed, rose, instructed his disciples again, and then ascended. And this is Paul. This is the guy who, supposedly says that the law is done away with. He follows the law. He keeps the law. He doesn't teach against the law. So much so that there's people during the time of Paul, they believed that he was speaking against the law. And so in the Hebraic fashion, what do? You get two or more witnesses to establish the whole matter, and they approached Paul and they said, hey, this is what we've been hearing, that you're teaching against the law. Are you actually teaching against the law? And Paul, in his own words, says, no, I'm not teaching against the law or the prophets. The law is good. I'm following the law. I'm not teaching against the law. Well, it escalates and he gets put on trial. And the trial goes all the way up to the governor. The governor, and the Pharisees are still trying to get Paul caught up, and he appeals to Caesar because he knows that they have an intent to twist and pin the people against him. But he says over and over again in his own words how he is not speaking against the law. So that's an example. We see the Messiah keeping the law. We see Paul keeping the law. We see the disciples keeping the law. Paul, even after Acts, if you go into his epistles, in Acts, it states that Paul is a Nazarite, and that is in the Torah. You see that Paul follows the purification process of ending his Nazarite vow, and that's also in the Torah, that the specific instructions is carried out via the Torah. We see the disciples, the apostles, Paul, all of these people keeping the Sabbath. That's also in Torah. We see him speaking about the law in his epistles. Now, when you read law, and like I said, context is key because context kills false doctrine. Every time you see the word law, is not talking about the law of Moses. For example, in Romans, yeah. So we see in Romans 6, chapter 6 and Romans chapter 7, Paul isn't talking about the law of Moses at all. He mentions the law of Moses, but he's specific in regards to the law of Moses, but he's talking about the law of sin, because that is what actually is holding people in bondage. It's actually what's making us slaves. It's actually what's allowing us to fall into temptation and deal with the sinful desires of our flesh. So he's speaking about overcoming the law of sin. He's not speaking about doing away with the law of Moses. And I go into detail, I go into in-depth breakdown in the videos as well. So basically, if you have a claim about anything, you have to have a certain amount of evidence to back that claim up. You can't say that the law is done away with and not have evidence to back it up. If all you have is scriptures that you don't have a full understanding on, you may think you do, but you don't, and you're quoting these scriptures out of context, that doesn't amount to evidence. We see by reading the scriptures examples of people keeping the law after the Messiah's death, after the Messiah's resurrection, after the Messiah's ascension into heaven. We see people keeping the law. We see Paul speaking in his own words how he isn't teaching against the law. We see Paul in his epistles speaking in regards to the law that he's talking about, which is the law of sin. Look in Romans. Look, first, I want you to read Romans chapter 7 and verse 6, where you would think that he's talking about the law of Moses. But if you follow that down, read the whole chapter, but specifically, if you read verse 23, it gives you clarity and understanding as to which law he's talking about. He's talking about, come on, Makari. He's talking about the law of sin, because he says specifically, there's another law at work here in my members that's holding me into captivity, the law of sin. And that also explains what Romans chapter 6 is talking about. They're keys to unlocking each other. And so we see people keeping the law. So if my thing is this, if the law was truly done away with, the disciples would have stopped as soon as the Messiah died. The apostles would have stopped. You wouldn't have seen anything about the Torah in the New Testament at the later part of the New Testament after the Gospels. You wouldn't see anybody keeping the law. You wouldn't see anybody talking about the law. You wouldn't see anybody doing the law. In fact, you should have seen accounts of certain people keeping the law, and then people coming and rebuking those individuals for keeping the law, or people coming and correcting those individuals for keeping the law. Akari, stop. So it's not there. All the evidence speaks to the law not being done away with. If the Most High doesn't change and he's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, if he established a law and he said this is everlasting, why would it change? Why would it change? Nothing changes, right? The law ain't going nowhere. It ain't going nowhere. It's still here. He gave a brief kind of like a brief synopsis of what he believes, I believe, in regards to keeping the law. So I'll just give clarification and then I'll in the video. The law has always been spiritual. It's never just been this carnal set of rules that people assume it is. It's always been spiritual. Even in the Old Testament, keeping the law has always been spiritual. Paul confirms it also in Romans chapter 7, I believe, verse 14. Don't quote me on it, but go check it out. Now, the law's always been spiritual. To keep the law is not about some carnal, fleshly mindset to check off a box, to follow a rule book, or to feel self-righteous about you being better than someone else. To keep the law is done in obedience and in love, right? Because for those who truly love the Most High, Akari, I'm making a video. You're being rude. If you truly love the Most High, the best demonstration of that love is obedience. Obedience to his word, obedience to his instructions, obedience to his statutes and his commandments, all a part of the Torah. Now, I follow the Torah not because it's a set of rules that he just said I need to follow in order to be righteous or in order to make it into the kingdom. I follow the Torah because I love the Most High so much that it's my pleasure to be obedient to him. Everything that I do is to glorify him, and it's coming from a place of love and fear for him. So when I talk about salvation, when we talk about the subject of salvation, what does it take to make it into the kingdom? There's two things that you need. You need obedience, and the obedience side of the house encompasses following the law and being diligent in following his instruction. And the other side of the house is faith, because you have to have faith in him through his son in order for salvation to come into fulfillment. You need both, not just one. If you got faith without works, it's dead. If you got works without faith, it's dead. Read the book of James. I believe it's chapter 1. Hold on, I got my Bible over here. Let me pull it open. Because it breaks it down specifically. It uses Abraham as an example. It uses Rahab as an example. And it breaks everything down in a way that pretty much anybody can understand the topic of salvation and what's required for salvation. James chapter 2, verses 14 through 26. It outlines it. It says if you have faith without works, it's dead. You need both. You need to follow the Torah, be obedient to the Most High, follow his instruction, and have faith in him. Both. You need both. So that's my breakdown. You have to follow both in order to be saved. One of the main things that me and a brother disagree on was for me. Stop. If y'all ain't got no kids and you thinking about having kids, just think of it twice. Think it over before you have kids. Boy, I'm telling you, they don't got no chirp. But if you, I lost train of thought. But I remember now. So the main thing that I disagree with him on is I believe that if you're gonna believe in these scriptures and you're gonna do your studying, you do your due diligence, you have to accept all of the scripture. You can't pick and choose, and you can't say, okay, I'll accept this specific scripture into my understanding, into my perspective, into my doctrine, but I exclude this other scripture because it doesn't line up with what I believe in. It's all the scripture goes hand in hand. All the scripture works together. So you got to accept it all. You got to accept the entire book, or you just got to exnate a book out. And the first time I brought up the book of James, he said that he didn't agree with James and he didn't believe in James. and that lost me immediately. Not just from a debate perspective, because I felt like that he kind of shot himself in the foot at that point, but just from um, a concerned perspective for my brother, because I feel like once you get into putting away scripture, then you kind of going off into something that it might be hard to come back from. You know what I mean? But all in all, I believe that the brother is very, very knowledgeable. The brother is very intelligent, and like I look forward to our conversations and stuff like that So I just I wanted to talk about my side of the house and everything like that, but just to share some things. I know he says that he wants to get people to not follow the law. And when I first heard it, it was, I was like, wow, man, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of reckless. That's blasphemy. But I get where he's coming from, because he's just following his conviction. He believes that he's right. He believes that he's in the truth. And he's just trying to wake people up, and we all need that type of conviction when we're speaking about the truth. We just got to make sure that what we're speaking about is factual. You know what I mean? Like I go hard for these scriptures, and I butt heads with a lot of people, because a lot of people have been brought up in these different Hebrew Israelite doctrines, and Esau's the white man, and Gentiles can't be saved. It's only Israelites, and they try to make everybody in the Bible an Israelite as opposed to the Gentiles, and they don't believe that these other nations can come into the fold and all these other things, and the scriptures speak completely against that. So I go hard when I hear people mention things like that. It sounds like it's just this doctrine that's racist and full of hate, and it's sad. But I go hard for it, and people like, man, why you always out here trying to be an advocate for the Gentiles, trying to be an advocate for these other nations, for these heathens? You need to be focusing on your own people. And I'm like, bro, you don't understand. If you follow the Most High, you follow the Torah, and you believe in the Messiah, and you have faith, then you are my people. You are my people. It don't matter what kind of skin color you got. You got people that's my skin color or darker that's out here standing on street corners yelling at people, having people kiss their boots. You got people that's my color or complexion and don't believe in the Most High at all. You got people that's my complexion that's out here living their life selling poison to people who look like them. But I'm supposed to, just focus solely on those types of people? No. If you follow the laws and you keep the commandments and you have faith, because following the law should be coming from a place of faith as well, then you my people. And so from the outside looking in, what I speak about is blasphemy. What I speak about is far-fetched, it's way crazy left field, and a lot of people don't agree with it. But I know it's the truth because I've studied it, I know it, I read the scriptures front and backwards in regards to that. So I know the Most High have already confirmed it for me. You know what I mean? So I'm going to keep speaking it, and I'm going to keep going for it. I'm going to go hard. I'm going to keep going hard. I'm going to go hard for it in my music. You're going to hear it in my music. You're going to hear it in all my lessons. You're going to hear it when I come on, when I go off, everywhere I go. I post. If you read my posts, I go hard for it. Because I know it's the truth, and I'm trying to wake up my people because they're hindering themselves. When they become a stumbling block to their brother, then they are going to be held accountable. And it's a lot of people that's thinking they're going to get into the kingdom. And when they finally get there, it's going to be like it say, and I think it's in the book of Jeremiah, when the gates close, and it says it's going to be gnawing and clawing and gnashing of teeth. And the Messiah is going to say, I don't know you. And they're going to be like, what? But I've been keeping these laws. I've been keeping these commandments. I got my fringes. You know what I'm saying? Kwam Yasharala. Why can't I get in? He's going to be like, I don't know you. Y'all here in this hate. Y'all here in these false doctrines. Y'all quick to try to label somebody else a heathen, and you don't even know what a heathen is according to the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? You out here talking crazy about people because they don't look like you. when you don't even know if you a bloodline Israelite yourself. Understand understand Hebraic culture. You are what your father is. So if your father white, according to your doctrine, then you ain't a Hebrew, because that would make you a Gentile, right? So guess what? If your great 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 grandfather was a white slave owner, guess what that make you? Because in order for you to be a full blooded Hebrew, a bloodline Israelite, so to speak, because y'all what your father is, you would have had to have a pure bloodline Israelite male in every generation of your family, dating all the way back to the 12 tribes, all the way back. No Gentile mixing in at all in that on the male side, because you are what your father is. And a lot of us can't even trace our stuff back to slavery, let alone beyond and past that. So all this time and this effort that we spending, wasting on trying to figure out if not trying to figure out, but saying that we Israel and holding on to the culture. Oh, this is my culture. This is my heritage. Hebrew Israelite ain't a religion. It's a bloodline. It's a lineage. Kill that noise. Kill that noise, because it might not even apply to you. But what does apply to you? Are you following the laws and the statutes and the commandments? Are you loving the Most High, fearing Him, and following His word? Are you demonstrating love and faith? If you're not, then you can just give it up. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I've been going hard for. And like I say all that to say this: for the people who think that I speak blasphemy on that, I can understand why people who disagree with Brother Caleb say he speaks blasphemy in regards to trying to get people to get away from the law. So I understand his conviction. I just simply disagree with it. And I've provided well, not all of it. It's a lot more to it than I've said in these couple videos. But I've provided a good degree of evidence, examples, and proof in regards to why that perspective is in error. But you guys be good. I'm gonna play with my son and hope my daughter wake up so we can probably do something or whatever. I don't know, but y'all be good. Y'all be safe. I hope that his video and my video together in some way, shape, or form touched somebody, gave them some type of encouragement to get in the scriptures. It's all about building this kingdom up, man. I'm here to help you guys. I'm here to build and edify you guys. And I'm here to meet more people so they can build and edify me, man. It's not just a me teaching. You know what I'm saying? I learn. I'm here to learn. I'm here to serve. I'm here to learn. I'm here to serve. I'm here to build. And the only way we can do that is if we consistently, link up and engage with one another. Brother Caleb got a completely different view from me. How did we meet? How did we link up? We had opposing views, but a mutual respect, and then we linked up. Now we can have a conversation about anything. We have to continue to push the envelope to build the nation up. And when I say nation, I mean the nation of Israel, all of Israel, not just the Israel that you fit in a box. All of Israel. Israel in regards to true followers of the Most High. We can't be trying to twist the scriptures up. We can't be trying to lean on to what the elders say, the pastors say. These camps, we gotta let that go. We gotta focus on the Most High and what He said in His word. So y'all be good, man.